$20,000. That's roughly how much money we've saved over the last 2 years by just being moderately handy. Today, I want to show you how, and hopefully give you the confidence boost you need to do the same. Let's go. Owning a home comes with constant repairs and upgrades, which then leads to the realization that these things can be expensive. Contractors, painters, plumbers, electricians, every call can cost hundreds, if not thousands. But here's the thing, a lot of these jobs can be done on your own if you're even just a little bit handy and, I think most importantly, willing to learn. Today, I'm going to walk through 2 types of projects in my own house. Ones that I've tackled already and ones that I've got on my short list to tackle soon. Some of them are small, like draining a hot water heater or swapping out faucets, and others are bigger, like painting cabinets or renovating a laundry room. But each one has saved me money, taught me something new, and made our home feel better. I'll share what I did, how much I think it would have cost to hire out, to have someone else do it, what I spent doing it myself, and how much I saved. Now, obviously, numbers vary by market and scope, so these are kind of ballpark figures for a typical mid-Atlantic home. Your bids can differ, obviously, but the principle is certainly the same. Being handy saves real money. Now, for a lot of these things, you're going to need some tools, but don't worry, okay? It's not, I don't have a wild tool set. Like, I have just some basic things. If you don't have them, you know, a real simple set of tools can get you started. Measuring tapes, pencils, you know, a circular saw, screwdrivers, a drill, like these kinds of things, nothing major. I will mention all the specific tools that I've used, and I'll have affiliate links to a lot of them in the description below. Maintenance saves money. Let's start with the hot water heater that I already mentioned. A plumber will probably charge at least $150 to $200 just to come out and flush it. I did it myself in about 45 minutes to an hour using a hose, my utility sink, an old screen to filter the sediment, an air pump, and the one item I bought for the job, the sediment buster tool for $42. Check out my full video here on the entire tank draining and flushing process. My savings on this, about $100 to $200. Now, why does this specific maintenance matter? You know, over time, minerals settle to the bottom of your hot water tank, and that buildup makes the heater work harder and thus can raise your utility bill and shorten the lifespan of the tank itself. And a new tank can cost like $1,500 to $3,000 or even more, depending on the specific tank and how like technologically advanced it is. So extending its life by this simple annual maintenance is huge. And this is a great reminder, like right off the top, that being handy isn't always about glamorous or expensive upgrades. Sometimes it's just knowing some simple maintenance things to do that can keep the house running smoothly, and in doing so, keep a lot of headaches out of your life and keep cash in your pocket. Next up, storage. I built 3 shelves in our basement, in total about 16 linear feet, each one about 2 feet deep and 7 feet tall. A contractor would have charged, I'm guessing, somewhere around $1,500 to $2,500 for custom shelving like this. And buying heavy duty shelves from somewhere like Home Depot or Lowe's would have cost probably $400 to $600 per shelf, because we have a lot of heavy stuff sitting on these shelves. And more importantly, would not have maximized the space that I was trying to fit these shelves in. I was able to build them to fit exactly into the space I wanted, and my cost was just lumber, plywood, and screws, and that came to about $400. That means I saved between $800 and $2,000 just building these 3 shelves, and it made the basement a lot more usable, right? Everything is nice and organized now. My next shelving project I'm taking on is in the garage, and I'm going to build a set of sort of floating shelves, like one tier of shelves around the top of the garage just above head level to put some things up there that are on the ground and make more use of that overhead space. I'll be able to hang things like bikes and then hold boxes, sports gear, yard tools, etc., right? Installed by someone who's a professional, I think that's easily $1,000 to $1,800. Doing it myself will run about $500 once I buy some additional like hanging brackets for like a bike or something. But otherwise, it's all wood. It's the same as the basement, and it's a similar amount of materials. It's all just 2x4s, plywood, and screws. So for this, I'll save probably $600 to $1,400. And these shelves, I think the nice thing about these shelves in particular is that they don't require fine woodworking skills. You need a pencil, a measuring tape, a drill, and a saw. Like, I don't even have a miter saw. I just use a circular saw for everything. So you can definitely do this with a very basic set of tools. You know, I'll use a level for this one as well. And ultimately, I think the biggest thing is patience. And with something like storage shelves in a garage or a basement, if a cut isn't perfect, it usually still works, okay? We're not building something for appearance here. It's almost purely for function only. But still make sure you apply the tried and true adage of measure twice, cut once, not the other way around, okay? And remember, every time you measure, cut, and fasten something together, you're not just saving money, you're also building some confidence for the next project, which is painting. Painting cabinets. In our kitchen, I repainted the cabinets instead of replacing them. This is what our kitchen looked like when we moved in. A bit dated. The original wood cabinet faces were there. And we did pay for new countertops because that's, I think, beyond the scope of like handy skills. But we thought we could, with proper preparation, take on painting the cabinets. And I even used a paint sprayer for the very first time on this project, and not a fancy paint sprayer, a $45 one from Amazon, and it was freaking awesome. Here are some key points from my experience. Use high quality cabinet paint. This is a case where you get what you pay for. Our kitchen cabinets have been painted for more than 2 years now, and they still look perfect. They clean easily. We've had no chipping on them at all. And we have 3 young kids who aren't gentle with stuff. Good news here, I'm about to also paint our bathroom cabinets, and I'm gonna make a video on the entire process. It's way easier than you might think. And look, if you don't wanna use a paint sprayer, that's fine. I rolled all the boxes in our kitchen and used a brush on them. So I only sprayed the doors, which I took out into our garage to do. A professional painter, I think, would want somewhere between $4,000 and $7,000 to do this. My cost was $200 to $400 for a sprayer, paint, a brush, rollers, sandpaper, sanding blocks, and tack cloth. So I saved somewhere like between $4,000 and $7,000 just about. We also added the hardware to the cabinets ourselves, and I used the Craig cabinet hardware jig to get those in the right spot. You don't have to do that. You can measure and stuff. It just made it a little bit easier. And we used these matte black pulls that we got on Amazon. Links in the description below. For the bathroom vanity that I'm about to paint, I think pros would likely quote, $400 to $800. And I'll do it myself for basically the cost of the paint because I already have all the other supplies. That's gonna be like $125 for the primer and the main color. That's another roughly $300 to $700 save. Painting teaches patience. You clean, sand, prime, paint, and maybe even seal, and you wait for each coat to dry. It's time intensive, sort of. You really just do a coat and then you go do something else while it dries, right? It's not that serious of a time commitment once you have everything set up and ready to paint. Now, every time I walk into my kitchen, I sort of see like thousands of dollars still in my bank account because I was willing to, pick up a brush or learn how to use a sprayer, which I was kind of nervous about. But the payoff has been awesome. Essential fixes. Some jobs are essential, like toilets, for example. A plumber would have charged me probably $400 to $600 in labor to install a new one, remove an old one, install a new one. The toilet and the included wax ring that I did was $220, and I installed it myself. And it's not that hard to install a toilet. You just read the instructions, take some time, watch some videos. It is not that hard to do. Ultimately, for a toilet, you are setting the toilet down over the hole in the floor, and you will have 2 bolts that come up that go through mounting holes in the toilet. And you get that all to a line, you press it down tight, and you screw it in, and you attach your plumbing to it, which are flex hoses that screw on. So it's ultimately not that difficult to do. It involves water, so be careful. It's the same with faucets. Swapping out 4 faucets would have cost probably, I don't know, $1,000 to $1,600 in labor plus parts. I paid $200 to $300 for all the faucets, and I just installed them myself. Same thing, turn off the water, unscrew the faucet, remove it, put the new faucet in, attach the water line back to it, turn the water on slowly to make sure nothing's leaking, okay? That saved $700 to $1,400. Another pretty straightforward project was my attic access panel. I replaced the old panel, which was just a plywood cover that sort of pushed up and out of the way into the attic. So what I did was install a locking metal hinged access panel that we can unlock, and it swings down. And then I lined that with foam insulation, because previously it was just the blown insulation from the attic, like resting on top of the panel. All that's left to finish here on this one is the trim that goes around the edge to make it look nice. I think a handyman would have charged, I don't know, let's say $300 for labor, plus the cost of materials, which were about $125 in here. So I saved myself that $300, and I got the pride in like figuring this out myself. To me, that's fun, figuring that out, and it's saving money. Light switches. At this point, I have replaced almost every light switch in the house with modern style toggles, like you see here, versus the traditional flips that were installed when we moved in. I've also been able, while doing that, to install a variety of smart home switches and relays inside of some of the boxes. An electrician, I think, to do all the work that I've done with switches probably would have charged well over $2,000 for that amount of work of what I've added and upgraded. My cost was about $400 to $500 for all the materials, including all those smart home devices, which are obviously more expensive than just dumb switches. And then maybe another $50 to $100 in equipment I didn't have, like a non-contact voltage tester, and some other, specialty tools here and there. And the savings on this is probably, like $1,500. But here is my disclaimer about electricity. I understand if you have fears about electricity. I do think it's both not as scary as it seems, and also something that should be taken very seriously. Always turn off the relevant breakers and then still test that there is no current before beginning work. That's where that non-contact voltage tester works. You can also use a voltage meter. Once that is done, however, the act of removing wires from an old outlet or switch and then attaching them to a new one is very simple. If you are unsure or really worried about electricity, obviously call an electrician. And there's tons of tutorials out there on how to do these kinds of basic things and be safe. Bigger projects. Now, as your skills grow, so do the projects, of course. You get a little bit of confidence. You're like, well, now maybe I'll take this on. So another thing that I did was this bedroom accent wall. I built a grid pattern with 1x4 slats and painted it. And I think it really, transformed the space and just made it ours. It personalized it. I think a carpenter or a designer would have charged $1,000 to $2,000 easily. So my cost was really just the wood. I mean, that's all this is 1x4s in here and some nails and a little bit of glue. So I saved easily, close to $1,000 to $2,000, because it was just the material cost, $150 to $300. And then there's our laundry room. Now this one is a still in progress, kind of a longer term project, but the initial part of this was to replace the flooring, and we got new washer and dryers and then add a countertop. And in another video that's coming eventually, you will see the finished project with the planned wall-mounted cabinets that we have for storage and a removable slat wall here on the back that will hide the outlets and water shut-off. I think a contractor would have quoted $5,000 to $10,000 to do this, to be honest. My cost was just the flooring and the glue that goes with it, the countertop, stain, and an upgraded dryer outlet. When we got the new dryer, we had to go to a 4-prong dryer. You know, that was all of it together about $350. The cabinets will probably be another $500, you know, and the slat wall maybe another $100 or $200. But by doing it myself, I'm saving like $4,000 to $9,000, which is kind of crazy. Now, bigger projects obviously demand more planning. You'll have to be realistic about time and know when you actually need to call in a professional, especially for major electrical or plumbing work beyond your comfort zone. Once you've knocked out smaller projects, stepping into larger ones definitely feels less intimidating. You have way more confidence at that point. So let's add it all up. A grand total of somewhere around $13,000 to $25,000 saved. That's the real money on the table when you're willing to be handy. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to be willing to try and to learn. Start small, learn as you go, and the savings will stack up quickly. Every project puts money back in your pocket and builds skill for the next one. What's your favorite money-saving, handy tip, trick, or project? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.